Yeah, it's going to be soaking out there. We actually have flood warnings in place right now in a few places this morning, and the rain's really coming down. So we're going to see a little more of this today. It's going to be one of those days it's just going to be wet out there. We're seeing lots of clouds now as the sun is coming up and some rain showers in a few spots. Still wet pavement in many areas. We have this area of low pressure that's back to the west with a stationary boundary associated with it, and it's really just going nowhere. So it's just going to keep pumping moisture our direction even today into tonight as well and tomorrow. So you can see right now with satellite and radar we have a lot of rain on the map, mostly around the sand hills and concentrating back towards the Triad. If we zoom in here, you can see we have this flood warning right now across portions of Moore County. 7 lakes right now seeing some really heavy rainfall, as well as Carthage. This is going to continue to move northward, but it's moving very slowly, so we're getting a lot of rain. And this is kind of how much rainfall we've seen. You can see we have this flash flood warning going through this morning for all the cities listed there in Moore County. So we have a wet day ahead. Futurecast keeps us nice and wet through most of the day, and it's going to keep us that way into part of the night, and then we get a little bit of a taper there. Temperatures right now are in the 70s. We're going to talk about how long this rain lasts out there coming up in just a few moments. A wet weekend and treacherous weekend for some folks as well. We saw some heavy rain yesterday afternoon.
Some flooding up there in Wake Forest.
Some flooding towards Wake Forest, Roseville area.
Right.
So we are going to see more of that today in some locations, unfortunately.
That's not good news.
No, not good news. All right, so outside this morning, we're looking at satellite and radar, and I want to point out a few things here. We are talking about some very heavy rain right now around Moore County. Basically, all this moisture that's been moving northward this morning has just been moving very slowly. So the rain that's there, we have what's called training. The showers just kind of come over the same spot over and over again as they're moving south to north there. And so that's what's happening here. So Robbins, you're seeing some of the heaviest rain there along 24 just to your south, and going a little farther south in Moore County towards Pinehurst, Foxfire, Aberdeen, Southern Pines, Whispering Pines right now seeing that more moderate rainfall. But these areas have just been inundated this morning with rain. So we're talking several inches, and we've had at least 5.5 inches according to our Doppler estimates out there. So that flash flood warning for Moore County goes until 8:45 this morning. And take a look at some of the totals in the past 24 hours in other places. Almost 6 inches there in northeastern Wake County, and we're seeing just about 2 inches, close to 2 inches around the Durham area and just south of there. So as we move through the day today, we're going to get more rainfall. We're going to get a little bit of a break early on in some spots, but then this afternoon it's going to ramp up once again, and we'll have higher rain chances and some thunderstorms with that embedded heavy downpour within those thunderstorms. Our imagery that shows how much moisture we have out there, it's done by water vapor, and we also look at some numbers called PWATS, precipitable water. That's upwards of a couple inches, which means we have the potential for inches of rainfall. All of the gray and the purple that you see, those are the areas that have all the moisture in place. The red and the orange, that's all the dry air. So you see we have plenty, and this hasn't moved much since yesterday and the day before. So rainfall totals through tomorrow evening are going to ramp up just a little bit, especially around areas in the Sandhills and points westward. You'll notice, though, as we head through the next few days, the numbers do increase even more, a couple of inches at least, all the way through Thursday evening. So we do have a long period of rain ahead of us. As far as outside this morning, looking at our time-lapse view from the airport, as the sun starts to come up, you can see all the cloud cover in place, and we're going to see lots of clouds again today. We did see a few breaks of sunshine Saturday, and I'm expecting another similar pattern to unfold for today as some of these storms kind of die down and then kick back up. So temperatures outside will go from the upper 60s and lower 70s through the morning hours into the mid-70s by about the noon hour, upper 70s getting closer there in the Sandhills, and then as we head into the late afternoon, we're going to crack the 80-degree mark in many spots, especially if you can get some sunshine. You'll definitely see some of those lower 80s. So 81 for Raleigh, Durham for 80 degrees, and 83 for Fayetteville. The rain chances are going to remain pretty high around the entire region for today. It's going to be steamy out there as well. 71-degree dew point by 3 o'clock today, so you're going to notice the mugginess outside. Right now, what we have going on is this low-pressure area with a stalled frontal boundary. It's just not been moving, and it's not going to move much today. In fact, it's just kind of wiggling around some. So as we head into later this afternoon, there's that high risk for flash flooding a little bit west of central North Carolina, more towards the Triad, down through Charlotte and towards the mountains. But nevertheless, it's there. If you have plans going westward today, you're going to encounter some heavy rainfall at times. For tomorrow, that moves a little bit more towards the mountains. The front's going to stay close by. We're going to keep the humidity around, and we're going to keep the wet weather with us. Now, as we get into Tuesday, the good news is we start to see our next thing that's going to push things out of the way arrives. So here we go. There's that area of low pressure associated with a cold front. That front is eventually going to sweep through and take things out of here, but it's going to take it through the middle of the week to do that. So Futurecast keeps us really wet through part of the morning hours, especially around the Sandhills. Then we get a little bit of a break, and then we ramp it up again for later in the afternoon. So by 5 o'clock today, it looks like with Futurecast, everyone's going to be seeing a good chance of some rainfall. It tapers down a little bit overnight. Then tomorrow morning, while your morning commute may not be so wet around the Raleigh area, back towards Durham, you may get a pretty wet commute tomorrow morning around Fayetteville. So keep that in mind. As we head through the afternoon into Monday afternoon, your afternoon commute will be pretty wet, it looks like, once again. So because of all this rain, you know, washing the car, Mother Nature's done that for you. The pollen threat's going to be low as well. And we're talking about mosquitoes also, but staying pretty high the next few days because of that threat for water out there. And those breaks you get when you step outside in your yard, the mosquitoes just kind of flood to you. So yeah, it's high threat for you. Over the next few days, our temperatures are not going to remain very hot, but we're going to see that humidity, so you're going to feel it outside. And then as we head through the middle of the week, we start to see some relief. And I think around Thursday, we're going to start to turn the page. And so by next weekend, I'm thinking we're going to be back to pool weather by then. Yeah, it's going to be a few more days, guys, and here's what we can expect. We're looking at a threat for flash flooding again this afternoon. The wet pattern is going to stay in place much of the week, and we're looking drier towards the end of the week and the weekend. So if you're looking for your bright spot, you're going to have to look several days out here. Satellite and radar this morning getting better. That's the good news. Not so much for the mountains. They're still seeing a lot of rainfall there. So if you're planning to go over on 40 today towards Asheville, it's going to be a wet drive. As we look across the state, though, notice the rain starts to taper right here around Cumberland County, Sampson County starting to dwindle there, Moore County. That literally while I was bringing you my last forecast, that flash flood warning there expired. When at 8:39, I was on the air there at 8:40, so I was sitting there waiting, and it went off of the radar there. So it is done, and we are seeing the rainfall wrapping up there in some spots. But again, we're going to see more likely this afternoon, and this advances all the way into tomorrow evening and on into the week. And you see that we start to add up the numbers, and a couple more inches as possible, mostly towards western areas of our state. So out there this morning, the time lapse was a pretty picture. You see the cloud cover out there. No rainfall really around RDU this morning, but we didn't see a lot of sunshine. May see some peaks of sunshine today at times. That'll impact our temperatures some. You can see our temperatures this morning are in the lower 70s through the morning hours, and then as we get to the noon hour, we're looking at mid 70s. Late this afternoon, looking at upper 70s to lower 80s. If we do get some peaks of sun, we saw that happen on Saturday around areas of Wake County, so we could bump our temperatures, yes, definitely into those lower 80s for sure. So 81 this afternoon for Raleigh, Durham, 80 degrees, Fayetteville, 83 degrees. This area of low pressure and this stalled frontal boundary not going anywhere really today. Later this afternoon just moves a bit. That high risk for flash flooding exists just to the west of our area there. Some portions of the western Sandhills could be impacted by that. Again, everywhere is a potential, but it looks like that's going to be the highest impacted area. Our next front that's going to be pushing all this out of the way is still back to the west. It's going to get closer as we get into tomorrow, but ahead of that, we're going to still see some more rainfall and more possible flooding. As we head into Tuesday, that front is going to really get closer. Not quite yet, but it's going to get closer, and that's the relief that's going to provide that flushing out of all this rainfall. So Futurecast takes us through the day today. I think through the noon hour, the worst of it's likely going to be once again there towards the Sandhills, the western portion of the Sandhills. And then as we head to the late afternoon, that's when it starts to move across portions of central North Carolina from south to north, and we see it moving into the Virginia border counties by the time we get to late this evening. As we head into the overnight hours, a little bit of a break. As we head into tomorrow morning, I think your morning commute may be damp, but not soaking wet. And then tomorrow afternoon, your commute's going to be pretty wet. The pollen forecast, no need to wash the car. That threat is low. And as we look ahead here, we're looking at mosquitoes being on the higher side of things. So unfortunately, that's a downside to our warm weather and our wet patterns. All right, so as we head through the week this week, temperatures remain not so bad. Humidity will remain up, though, so it will still feel warm. And then towards next week, the end of the week, I should say, is going to be a lot nicer with drier conditions.
All right, babe.